Hey friends, it's Allison here, jumping in real quick before you get into all the juicy details of today's episode. Did you know there is just one more week left to our 200th episode giveaway where you have the chance to win a full ride scholarship to the Better Belly Blueprint? This is the way to heal your gut so that you can poop daily, ditch acid reflux, and balance your hormones even when nothing else has worked. Here's how you can enter. Leave a rating and review on the Better Belly podcast on Apple Podcast or Spotify between now and May 29th. Take a screenshot of that rating and review, then go to betterbellytherapies.com/giveaway and fill out our 200th episode giveaway form. You will automatically receive an email with a code for $200 off the Better Belly Blueprint, which you're going to get as soon as you send in that form. And then a full scholarship winner is going to be announced on May 30th and messaged by email. If you win, you're going to win a full scholarship to the Better Belly Blueprint. And if you don't win, you can still get $200 off, which is 20% off of the Better Belly Blueprint if you join by May 31st at midnight. So go ahead and leave a rating and review. Get that giveaway form filled out at betterbellytherapies.com/giveaway, and you can finally end your constipation, acid reflux, and PMS for good. Do you think you may have estrogen dominance? Do you have interstitial cystitis and you don't want to be stuck on medications your whole life or are in constant pain every time you pee? Do you think or know you have mold toxicity or are wondering, what the heck, why should I care about mold toxicity? Or do you think or know you have SIBO and are wondering what to do about it? If you said yes to any of these, then this episode is for you. In today's episode, I'm answering Allison from the UK's question she submitted to our Ask Allison program. Her question was all about her interstitial cystitis, estrogen, mold, SIBO, and probiotics. How do you know if you have these things? What lab tests do you do? If the lab tests are positive, what do you do about it? And is my probiotic good enough? I bear all this in a super short and condensed episode, so you do not want to miss this. And if you want to ask me a question yourself like Allison did, go to betterbellytherapies.com/askallison and submit your question. Lastly, on this episode, I am sharing a big announcement. If you live in Canada, the UK, or Australia, or you want to learn how you can get $100 off working with me, then this announcement is just for you. I share it right at the beginning, so you can't miss it. Hey friend, welcome to the Better Belly podcast. Do you want freedom from bloating and constipation? Do you find yourself up late at night Googling natural constipation remedies, causes for bloating, or recipes and exercises to help constipation? Are you frustrated with the mind game of trying to figure out what foods are helping or hurting your gut? Hey, I'm Allison, mom, wife, and functional gut health practitioner. At a young age, bloating and constipation were my constants. I didn't know what to do and wished I could just live a normal life focusing on my passions, my job, and my family. I was tired of abdominal pain that woke me up at night and wasting time and money on gut health remedies that just didn't work. Breakthrough moment, the functional medicine and osteopathic approach to gut health. In this podcast, you will find natural remedies for bloating and constipation, practical, doable belly exercises and massages, and debunk the myths about what really is causing your tummy problems. So toss out those laxatives and say goodbye to that embarrassing gas. Your gut health is calling. And just as a reminder, this information is not meant to diagnose, manage, or treat disease. Always consult with your own health practitioner before you make any changes to your health.
Hi there, Allison. My name is Allison also. I just listened to your podcast for interstitial cystitis tips, and it was super helpful. I have had interstitial cystitis for 23 years, and a little bell rang with me because it started when I stopped the contraceptive pill, which I knew was connected, but I didn't know how. I would have loved to work with you, but I am in the UK, and so I do have a naturopathic doctor here. So I'm wondering if you can give me any further advice about the test for the urine test for estrogen, and if it came back positive, what to do about it. I also have been tested for mold toxicity, and I do have a mold mycotoxin, and I am taking citrus pectin, and I'm not sure whether that's the right binder for me. I also came back positive for an imbalance of gut bacteria, so I'm taking soil-based probiotics because I suspect I may have SIBO as well.
Hey, Allison from the UK. It's Allison. I had to do that. It sounds like your recording got cut off, so I'm just going to answer the questions and the information that you shared in your recording thus far, and hopefully this is super helpful to you. But before we get into today's episode, if you're wondering what podcast episode Allison was referring to about interstitial cystitis, check out my previous IC episode, 138, 3 Tips to Heal Interstitial Cystitis. I have it linked in the show notes, or you can also go back to the podcast player that you use for this podcast and just look for episode 138, 3 Tips to Heal Interstitial Cystitis. As a bonus, I also have an additional episode on IC called, it's episode 105, Clear UTIs and Interstitial Cystitis. Again, that's going to be linked in the show notes, but you can also just go to episode 105. So the other thing, before we get into my advice for Allison, I want to make a special announcement, which is if you live in Canada, the UK, or Australia, you can now work with me. Yay! So actually back in December, we outfitted the Better Belly Blueprint, which is the way to work with me, to be able to serve our international clients from Canada, the UK, and Australia. You can get all your labs you need from us in the blueprint. If you're from those countries, you can get all your supplements. And of course, you get the exact steps you need to heal your gut, plus lifetime bi-weekly group coaching calls and lifetime one-to-one coaching inside of our private Facebook group, which comes with the program. So I had failed to announce this whole international clients change because of the holidays and the New Year's going on. So with Allison's question from the UK, I wanted to announce it to you all now and every listener who is an international client. Additionally, just to celebrate this announcement and this thing that's been true since December, I'm throwing a mini flash sale to celebrate. So from now until February 8th, which is 1 week after this episode airs, you can use the code INTERNATIONAL, all caps INTERNATIONal, and get $100 off the Better Belly Blueprint. The Better Belly Blueprint is the way to work with me and get the exact method I use with all my clients to bring them from struggling and frustrated to food freedom, clear-headed, and pain-free. Plus, you get to poop regularly every day like a normal person. Go to betterbellytherapies.com/blueprint and use the code INTERNATIONAL to get $100 off when you pick the pay in full option, or click the link in the show notes to join today. Sweet. So that is it for all of my announcements. Now it is time to give some advice to Allison and, of course, you listening in, dear listener. So her first question was, what is the urine test that I recommended for testing estrogen, and what do I do if it comes back positive? So the urine test is called the Dutch test, and in the US, if you are in the US and you join us, we get you this test for $100 off compared to what other providers are going to charge you for it. Additionally, in the Better Belly Blueprint, I teach you exactly what to do if this comes back high in estrogen. And no, I'm not going to recommend you need birth control, lol. So for any of you who are on birth control right now and you're like, can I do this test? What about that? If you are on birth control and want to get off of it without a bunch of nasty symptoms coming back, I also have in the Better Belly Blueprint a birth control protocol to help you get off birth control safely and gently. So even if you're on birth control to manage symptoms, the whole reason you're having those symptoms is because of toxicity in your body. And I teach you how to do that in the entire Better Belly Blueprint, which is designed to heal you from the inside out. So you don't need birth control anymore to neutralize your symptoms. You get healed from the root up. You can get off medication and just feel good on your own. So the other thing to know, and I checked my show notes from episode 138. I also talked about another urine test to test for pathogens and other sources of inflammation that's common for interstitial cystitis, as well as a bunch of other problems. It's called the OAT test, organic acids test. We provide this test in the blueprint. So if you listen to episode 138 because you're like, I would just want to learn more about IC, and I mentioned that test, that is a test we can get you in the Better Belly Blueprint, and I teach you exactly how to interpret the lab test, what to do for every single marker, and how to get rid of those positive markers so that you can feel normal again. All right, so that was the first question. What's the urine test for estrogen, and what do you do if it comes back positive? As a summary, the urine test for estrogen and for hormones and even your adrenal glands is the Dutch test. We get it for you $100 off in the US, and we can get you that test even if you're in the UK, Canada, and Australia. And again, what do you do if it comes back positive? I teach you exactly what to do in the Better Belly Blueprint. Next thing that you mentioned, Allison, you said you tested for mold toxicity and you were positive for this. First, I want to say I'm so glad you were tested for this. Mold toxicity is a huge underlying source of inflammation for so many of my clients. So just that you know this, that it's on your radar, is a huge win. Second, you mentioned specifically you asked about your citrus pectin as a binder. Is it the right one? So here's my thoughts on not just the citrus pectin, but the mold component of your health right now on the whole. So number one, if you are not familiar with when I say a binder, what is a binder? A binder is a category of supplements that's meant to bind and neutralize toxins in the body. It doesn't kill pathogens, but it can reduce the amount of symptoms your body has and help you cope with the pathogen either before you start killing it or while you are killing it, because many times, the pathogens resist dying and they will make you feel worse to disincentivize you from moving forward. So personally, I've never used citrus pectin. This doesn't mean the binder is bad. I just don't have any experience to speak into it. I did a little bit of looking up inside of functional medicine forums I'm in, and I didn't see anybody saying it's better or it's worse. It's just different. But what I can say is that I typically, when I'm giving a client a binder, I use a blend of materials. So you're not just binding with just one element, but with multiple. Binders have different specialties and they have different ways that they work, how they bind. And so a lot of times you want to be binding in multiple different ways to get the best results. I share all of my favorite binders in my program, the Better Belly Blueprint, in the protocol templates that I give you that you can apply to yourself once you get your lab results. And I teach you which binders you need based on what pathogens you have and what your lab results say, all in super succinct, easy to watch, no medical degree required videos. So, and again, we do get you access to all the labs you would need. But that's one thing on binders in general citrus pectin, the summary being citrus pectin probably isn't bad, but it only is a binder. It's not killing the mold, and it's only one binding element, and I usually use something that has multiple binders in it. The other thing, and this is honestly much more important when it comes to mold, is that when you know you have mold, you want to kill all other pathogens first before you get to mold. Why is this, and what do I mean? Mold is an immunosuppressant, meaning it lowers your immune system. So your body's natural ability to get rid of pathogens is reduced when you have mold in your body, which means it's easy for other pathogens to take root and add even more problems. Not only do you get more symptoms from these multiple pathogens in your body now, but those additional pathogens add an additional load to your immune system, meaning that if you just try and go and kill mold, your immune system's probably not going to be able to help, and you could end up feeling a lot worse and not even effectively getting rid of the mold in your body. I have only seen one time when somebody had mold toxicity and literally no other pathogens. And this person was in her early 20s. She only had one symptom she was dealing with that she was trying to find the root cause for. And she was my assistant, and she'd heard me talk about multiple pathogens. She doesn't have any of the signs of any other pathogen. She had one symptom, and it really looked like it was connected to mold. We did an OAT test, and she had it. But if you have multiple symptoms, and it could be any of these, doesn't have to be all of them, but like brain fog, fatigue, acid reflux, bloating, constipation, diarrhea, joint pain, muscle pain, appetite change, like increase or decrease, PMS, really horrible perimenopause or postmenopause hormone symptoms, eczema, sinusitis, IC, if you have multiple symptoms going on, and 99.9% of my clients do, like all of them do, other than my assistant who's not a client of mine, you have more than one pathogen. It is not just mold. So you want to be looking for multiple pathogens, not just mold. And I teach you how to do this, and I give you the labs to do this in the Better Belly Blueprint. I teach you what order to get rid of the pathogens in, which does matter, and I teach you how to get rid of them in a natural and quick way. So no antibiotics, no doctor needed, none of that. Lastly, so we just covered kind of talking about mold toxicity and binders. The last question that Allison asked was, you mentioned that you were positive for an imbalance of gut bacteria. The first thing I want to say to this is I am not surprised. I'd expect this. Like, I just expect every time if someone has symptoms the way they have them, very intense, if they have other pathogens going on in their body, bacteria, whether it's your good bacteria or your bad bacteria, they are just going to get out of whack. It's kind of like they're in a war zone and they're either going to like starve because they're these citizens and they can't get their normal nutrients, or they'll overgrow, kind of like, you know, in wartime, sometimes citizens just go crazy and start to ransack things, right? It's just an additional chaos. It doesn't actually tell you anything. It's just part of the pathological response of the body that your normal gut bacteria, your normal flora gets weird. I'm going to get more to that in just a second, but you did mention, I want to get to the fact that you mentioned you're taking soil-based probiotics. I want to be very clear. Probiotics are not enough to solve bacterial imbalance, let alone SIBO, which you mentioned, and we're going to get to that. They are not enough to solve it on their own. If you have lots of symptoms, if you have other pathogens, even if you don't know you have other pathogens, you're listening to this and you're like, I don't know, maybe I just have bacterial imbalance. That doesn't happen. Just bacterial imbalance. Your body keeps a very regulated bacteria flora if you are like a normal human being under healthy circumstances. Your body's designed to regulate it on itself. Probiotics are like icing on a cake. If you don't even have a cake, you're just like creating a mushy pile of sweet goo. It's not like substantial. And so to create a really substantial long-term change in your gut, you have to get rid of and you have to look for other pathogens and other sources of toxins. I haven't even gotten into heavy metals or, you know, things like oxalates, which we help you look for in the Better Belly Blueprint to determine, do you have those toxins, and help you get rid of them, because they also play a big role in either the fact that you might have pathogens or the bacterial imbalance. So you have to fix the environment of your gut to fix and to bring your bacteria into balance. You have to get rid of other pathogens. You have to balance the pH of the stomach and small intestines. You have to improve digestion, get rid of heavy metals, improve your nutrient status, all those things. And that's why probiotics are not enough, because they don't do those things. Probiotics are basically just adding civilians to a wartime situation in your gut, and things can actually get more crazy. So it's not that like don't take probiotics, but they're not doing that much. And I actually don't, honest, like you want an insight into the Better Belly Blueprint, we put no probiotics into the program except for one protocol, and not that many people do that protocol. So literally just one protocol. Let's talk about SIBO. So even if you have SIBO is a very similar story with just general bacterial imbalance, meaning that SIBO is only enabled to happen by the environment of the gut. So if you have SIBO, all it tells me is your gut environment is really bad, and you can't just fix it with antimicrobial herbs and binders and probiotics. But this is a huge mistake that I see a lot of functional and naturopathic practitioners making. And it's what's causing me to get clients who come to me and they say they've already done a candida cleanse or a SIBO antibiotics 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 times, and they keep getting it back. It's because those practitioners are not helping them actually heal the environment of the gut. Because when the gut environment is actually healthy, things grow right. It'd be like trying to plant a palm tree in winter, like in Michigan, which is where I live. It's just not in the right environment, so it's going to die every time. It's like every time you then say, I'm going to buy another palm tree, that's like, I'm going to buy more probiotics and keep dumping these palm trees in my backyard. It's not going to work, right? You need the environment to be better. So that is what we teach you how to do in the Better Belly Blueprint. And I don't mean to gatekeep on any of these questions where I'm like, what do you do with your estrogens fix, like binders? Literally, to systematically share all this information, I had to build out a course, and it doesn't take forever to go through. You can actually read all the material in like 6 weeks, and then it takes you 3 to 6 months to actually activate and work through every step of the material. There are just so many small details that matter. If I tell you one piece of information, like a very specific binder I recommend, it leaves out a bunch of other important information that you do need to actually get the results you want. So I don't want to like distract you with all these things you think it's not about like finding the perfect binder or the perfect probiotic or the perfect whatever, but it's about doing the right things in the right order and knowing the big picture, not just one pathogen you're dealing with, but all of them, all the toxins. And I teach you what labs you need to do. I get you access to them in the Better Belly Blueprint. So go to betterbellytherapies.com/blueprint and use the code INTERNATIONAL, all caps, to get $100 off the blueprint when you pay in full and join by February 8th, 2024, this year. So you get lifetime access to support. You can take the program as fast or slow as you want because it's lifetime. You can start when you're able to. So if this month or this week or whatever doesn't work for you, that's fine. Start next month. And you can finally get that healing you want without lifelong extreme food restrictions or lifelong expensive supplements to take. Let me say that again. In this program, you are not going to leave with lifelong extreme food restrictions or lifelong expensive supplements to take. It's like putting on a cast where you need to keep that cast on to keep your leg or your arm or whatever immobile for a certain amount of time, but eventually your body heals and then you take that cast off, you do a little bit of PT and you move on with your life. That's the same way that this program works. So go to betterbellytherapies.com/blueprint and use the code INTERNATIONAL to get $100 off the blueprint when you pay in full. Allison and everybody else who's listening, whether you're in the US, UK, Canada, or Australia, I hope to see you in there. I cannot wait to see your gut, your body, your skin, your hormones, your brain glowing with health and vitality. See you guys next week. Hey friend, I hope you loved this episode. If you've been a fan for a while or newly loving this podcast, can you do me a favor? Drop into Apple Podcasts and leave me a review. When you leave a review, you do so much. You help me know you're listening. You can tell me what you're loving so I know what to make more of. And you help others by boosting this podcast so other people like you can find the podcast too. I mean, it's a win-win-win, right? So if you want a way to pay it forward, just go to Apple Podcasts or click the link in my show notes and leave a rating and review. And if you want some more free stuff, just head over to my free Facebook group, betterbellytherapies.com/Facebook, and you can get access to all of my free support for you, including some Facebook group exclusive stuff like my podcast episode vault, where you can search the Better Belly podcast by topic and find exactly what you need to expedite your healing. I cannot wait to see you in there. Catch you guys next week.